it's all well and good writing a business plan, which we did when we set up the business, and writing in there that 3 years down the line you were going to be turning over £3 million. You were going to have an order book that was full to brimming. You were going to set up another engineering business is one thing, but then actually seeing that through in reality is a totally different thing. In order to attract the customers that we wanted, we had to get our ISO 9001 approval pretty quickly. We were able to do that, within a 3-month window, and the key to that was putting in an ISO manual that was simple enough yet effective enough to manage the quality process without it being too convoluted, without it being too complicated, and putting in things in there that sort of send you off running around in circles. And I think, and again, when we talk about the growth of the business, the ability for us to maintain a high level of quality in relation to how we operate under ISO 9001, it's down to the simplifying the processes and procedures to enough where everybody can understand them and follow them effectively.
Welcome to Made to Grow, the podcast custom built for SME manufacturers, brought to you by Flowlens MRP software. In this episode of Made to Grow, we talk with Nathan Peele, co-founder and engineering director of Denatec, about how he and his co-founder Dean grew a new manufacturing firm in a highly specialised niche from zero to a turnover of over £3 million in just 3 short years. As the firm gets ready to take on America, Nathan looks back on the challenges they have overcome on their path to growth, and how their agility, flexibility and focus on customer needs, coupled with a relentless focus on quality, was the dynamite combination that helped to skyrocket their new business in the midst of a global pandemic. We also discussed the role of ISO 9001 and how, as a new firm, Denatec prepared for this audit and achieved certification in just 3 months. It's been an incredible journey, and there's certainly so much to learn from Nathan's passion for his business and his people. Welcome, Nathan Peele, to the Made to Grow podcast. Thanks very much for joining us.
Hi, Rich. Yeah, no worries.
This is a departure from our normal format, so we decided this series that would be important to introduce the voice of the manufacturer. So we have lots of people that help manufacturers in different ways on the podcast, but I think it's inspiring to hear stories, and yours is particularly inspiring. So Denatec was started effectively during the pandemic. Yourself and your partner Dean kicked it off, and in a little over 3 years, you've basically grown from 2 people to 15 and £3 million of turnover, and dozens of really fascinating and highly specialized engineering projects. So there's a lot to unpack about Denatec. You've also spun out a business in terms of engineering and machining. So that's another success story in its own right. So it'd be good just to kick off, Nathan, in terms of how did you get started for a start, and what was the kind of the catalyst or the genesis of Denatec, and where did it all come from?
Well, I think to answer that question, we have to go back in time. I think ever since I was at school, and when I left school, I had a passion for engineering. I opted to leave school and go into an apprenticeship rather than go down the normal routes of college. So, quite early on, I got a hands-on experience in engineering, CNC machining, for the aerospace industry, energy industry, manufacturing. And it started there really, and I think from that point forward, it was about taking opportunities to develop a career path that really encompassed everything that engineering had to offer. I took enough skills from my 4-year apprenticeship that then led me into a successful sort of startup in design, where I started to I got given an opportunity to design scuba diving equipment. And again, I think my ability to take knowledge and skills gained from hands-on machining into a design-based role, I think that was an opportunity for me. And again, rather than focusing just too much on just the design engineering side, I've always been very interested in how design and production sort of link together. So, even when we were developing new products then for the market, we would integrate quite closely with the production departments to get that product into manufacture. So I've always had an appreciation of how, complex technical design engineering and effective product management have always come together. And, I think it's been a passion of both of those things that really gets me here today, because Denatec now, we design and manufacture very complex, highly restricted goods for the oil and gas, subsea, energy sectors, which rely on, obviously, a high level of engineering, but it also relies on a very good level of production management and, dealing with customers, dealing with suppliers, and dealing with manufacturing processes.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when you look at your LinkedIn, has always got something new and interesting on it in terms of some new design or product that's going out the door. It never seems like there's a dull moment at Denatec.
No, we struck while the iron was hot. We did set up at the beginning of lockdown 2020, and where probably some companies found themselves struggling slightly with, dealing with, I don't know, basically how to get through lockdown. It actually gave us an opportunity to get a strong foothold in the market. Whilst we were a new startup business, it was just myself and Dean. We were able to be very reactive to our customers' needs, whereas some of our competition were struggling really to cope with the change in the way that you had to work during that period. And it did really. So for the first sort of 6 to 12 months, we quite quickly gathered that we were gonna get a lot of work, and if we stayed responsive during that first 12 months, that after that then we would soon become the go-to for the type of equipment that we supply. And what we're seeing now, 3 to 4 years later, is the roll-on effect of that. It's all well and good writing a business plan, which we did when we set up the business, and writing in there that 3 years down the line you were going to be turning over £3 million. You were going to have an order book that was full to brimming. You were going to set up another engineering business is one thing, but then actually seeing that through in reality is a totally different thing. And the thing that is that I really love about Denatec, and it is a love, a passion, is the ability, not only just for myself, but the rest of the team that's joined us here, to help fulfill that. Not only to fulfill the business plan that was written at the beginning, but to also take that off in a different direction. And when I talk about direction, I mean diversification. I mean the ability to go and set up a standalone machine shop, being able to set up distribution chains and technical agents all over the world, the ability to introduce product rather than bespoke projects. So when I talk about that, I talk about the design and development of pumps, valves, and components rather than just systems. So it's allowed us, it's given us an avenue or multiple avenues to diversify the business, and take really what is the core of the business, but expand it and diversify it to add extra value.
Mm-hmm. And how do you manage your time? Because there's quite a few different ways or modes of thinking there. You've got your design and engineering hat, your production hat, you've got your product development hat, you've got your customer and kind of sales and account management. How do you juggle all of that?
I think I think because the process, my understanding of the business and the process from start to beginning, including an appreciation of the customers and the customer base, right through to the level of quality that's expected at the end. I think it's the full understanding of what goes into that that makes the juggling process a lot easier. I think having a very good appreciation of the customer base and what they require and how our skills and services and products fit into that, I think that makes the upfront sales process very, very easy. We're not trying to sell something to somebody that doesn't understand what it is that we're trying to sell. We speak the same language as them. I myself come from the same background as them. Previous experience for me is in those types of industries. So when they're talking to me about their specific requirements, that it's something that is that I know about, that I understand. So it's not like we're speaking two different languages.
Yeah, you have confidence and they have confidence that you know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
And did you bring a lot of those relationships into the business? So I was curious about that first year of how you got off to such a good start. You were able to come into the new business free of any preconceptions, which was probably great in the pandemic. You didn't have to assume there was a way of working. You could just make it up as you went along, as we all kind of had to do in that period.
yeah. I mean,
But
we were quite challenged to begin with. We had certain, competition and stipulations on the fact that we weren't, allowed to approach certain customers, for certain reasons. And that in itself gave us a bit of a challenge because it sort of encouraged us to go further afield in terms of seeking work and seeking opportunities. But whilst we did that, whilst we were speaking to people we'd never spoken to before, again it quite quickly became apparent that we 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 were able to convert Denatec, which was a new start business with no prior, not much prior, well, what do you call it? We had financially, we were a new start, so we only had a small amount of money. The cash flow was tight, but we quite quickly, gathered a customer base that trusted us to deliver, and that was really inspiring for us, really, because had it been customers that we were au fait with and that we were familiar with, we could have understood it. But one of our first big customers was somebody that we'd never even spoken to before, and for them to put their trust in us to deliver, that was inspiring. And then that was a stepping stone then for larger, bigger companies in the subsea sector to then once we'd got the first couple of projects done and out there, and they were a success story. And I think, he said I put them out on LinkedIn and I market them as a success. The larger players were then coming and knocking on the door and saying, right, okay, can see you've done that. Now we're going to give you a chance to supply equipment for us. And again, the securing of some large contracts with some large blue chip companies in the subsea sector, sort of within the first 12 to 18 months. Again, that was a real leap up for us.
Mm-hmm.
And whilst that happens, then lots of other new companies then come back into the fold. And as I mentioned before, having agents in different parts of the world, that brings in new customers, new product types, new challenges.
How do you find those agents? How do you identify the ones that are going to, treat your brand and reputation as if it was their own?
I think it's their presence in the market. It's how they portray themselves in the market. It's their understanding as well of our products and our skills and services. For us, it's important that they are an extension of us, that they talk like us, they speak the same language technically as us, so that that it's almost as if they are part of us. And again, from a sales point of view, the clarity of information that comes in through those agents is very, very important. And again, we have quite a set way of how we deliver the requirements from a customer into the business. And with the clarity of information that comes in, it makes the quotation process very straightforward. And often it's that simplicity and clarity that helps convert the orders. Sometimes you can get into a battle with a potential customer because you might be talking about certain aspects of a system, and if you don't quite get the wording across right, you especially with certain language barriers, that might be restrictive in how quickly that inquiry would progress. But what we found is that, by picking agents and representatives that fully understand us and that fully understand our knowledge and skills, then there isn't that sticking point, and that there is no communication barrier. We can knock up proposals and quotations and technical documentation relatively quickly. And it's the communication of that information and being able to confirm quite quickly that it meets their requirements that often helps, turn the inquiry or the sales lead into a guaranteed order.
So you're sort of more responsive to the customer as well as more precise in how you're addressing their requirement.
Yeah, definitely. That hits the nail on the head. It's, the responsiveness. First of all, the responsiveness. If a customer comes on, no matter where they are in the world, no matter what time of the day it is, as an owner of a business, I don't think you ever switch off. I know you like to. You'd like to switch off every now and again, but with the business being a passion, you can never quite switch off. And if an inquiry comes in, while I sat there having a tea and it's from a customer at the other side of the world, it's the ability to respond to that customer and quite quickly give them the information that they need to give them the confidence that they want to continue with that inquiry, and then the ability then to quite quickly turn that inquiry into a guaranteed lead. I think is what makes the difference, because it doesn't give them an opportunity to go elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
If you engage with the customer at that stage in depth enough, and you provide them with enough information at the beginning that prevents them from needing to ask any more questions or having to go elsewhere to get information, you've done 90% of the work there already, and that's in the first part of the engagement. If you can engage effectively at the beginning, you give the potential customer no opportunities to want to venture elsewhere. And only very recently, even like yesterday, there was an example of that with two potential customers. How the accurate information and the fast response that was provided to them will inevitably lead to two orders coming into the business, and I'm highly confident of that.
Fantastic.
But obviously, the systems that we have in place that allow us to be that responsive are also very, very important.
The Made to Grow podcast is brought to you by FlowLens, the simple, affordable MRP system specifically designed for SME device, equipment and machinery manufacturers. Our top-rated cloud-based software can help you cut down on wasted materials, time and money, and eliminate the chaos of running your manufacturing with spreadsheets and hope. Our customers have reported savings of over a day per week per person in their business by cutting out needless admin, duplication of work and countless mistakes. Plus, lead times are shortened by up to 75%. And after hundreds of successful implementations, we've got the blueprint for manufacturing success nailed down. Head over to flowlens.com for a quick video tour of the software and to hear from more manufacturers like you who have transformed their businesses with FlowLens. Now, back to the interview. I want to come on to just, as the business is growing, what challenges have you had in expanding the team whilst maintaining that level of passion? Clearly the passion you have for the customer, the solution, the end product, it's clear. But how do you ensure that when somebody new on the shop floor or a new design engineer has that same passion for the customer, same level of responsiveness, or same level of focus on quality?
If we just we look at our staff and our employees, we are a team. We operate as a team. We regularly socialise with the team, and we make sure that through regular communication that we're all singing off the same page. When we bring new people in, I think the challenge there, and then certainly if I'm going from myself and Dean as a two to being at sort of like, having two businesses now with like 15 or 16 people across them, the challenge is obviously bringing people in and getting them on board with the way that you do things and the expectations that you want to drive, not only just for the customers but also for the level of quality and the efficiency of the business. I think the nice thing of being an SME, and again at the stage we are still able to sort of adapt to change. And whilst it's been one of the biggest challenges for us from our inception, our ability to respond quickly to change, and whether that's a change in the amount of work that we're getting, the change of the number or different resources that we're having to employ, and the various ways in which we have to sort of adapt or adopt different processes to accommodate that growth and change. Again, I think it's that that's something that ignites my passion, because if I can get everybody else working in this business feeling about the business the same way that I do, then I know that that's going to lead to its success and its growth. We don't overcomplicate things here, and again it goes back to the systems. If we've got a simple, intuitive system that works for the business, that can accommodate its growth and its and adaptations, then that leads to its success as well. We bring people in who we know understand the equipment and the processes from a technical point of view, then adopting our processes and sort of the way that, our finishing touches. That then is something that, we're able to sort of refine and hone in on, rather than having to sort of educate people on the basics. Mm-hmm. So that's really important to us.
I know, because obviously, hire for attitude and train for aptitude, which is easier said than done. But have you any tricks that you would share around, hiring for attitude, getting the people with the right work ethic?
It's very difficult. I think in this day and age where recruitment, there's so many recruiters out there and there's so many CVs being pushed under your nose. You've really got to look behind the CV and you've really got to look at the person. You've got to look at their attitude, not only towards what they do at work, but their attitude towards how they communicate with people outside of work and how they behave generally. And I think it's those types of soft behaviors and soft skills that I think I really, when I'm looking at recruiting people, that's what I look for, because I do know that if you can technically know everything in the world, but if you're not the type of person that's able to communicate effectively with other people, or able to adapt, or able to pull your sleeves up when it's needed, and sometimes do part of the job that you're not necessarily intended to do. If you're not that type of person, then you're not really the right person for an SME like Denatec, because it does rely on everybody sort of mucking in and making sure that at the end of the day, whether it's at the front end or it's at the back end, the customer's satisfied and everybody leaves here a happy employee.
Exactly. If you know you've pulled your weight and you share in that success, and you share in the failures and the challenges as well, but you're not alone. You're sort of in it together, which is I know the same feeling with the Flowlens team. We feel like we're all pulling in the same direction to get to that point. That future state of perfection, whilst not letting perfection be the enemy of good.
Yeah, I was thinking in engineering, if you're seeking perfection, I think it'll be a very long journey that I don't think will ever come to an end. At the end of the day, if everybody sort of leaves happy and the business does well, sort of financially, I always say as long as nobody gets hurt and everybody's happy, then the business is doing well. If it can make profit on top of that, and again, that's one of the things that we do to keep our employees engaged, is we like to share that out. If the business does well, the people do well. That's one of our mottos. And we like to share in the success of when we win new business. We put it out there into the group. We let everybody know when new orders are coming in. We don't hide that kind of information from our employees, because we want them to feel the same way that we do. We want them to get that feeling of excitement when a new order's won, and maintain that sort of that interest and that passion right through to when the equipment leaves the door.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned systems there a couple of times, and I know in our early conversations, ISO was a key factor in success. That's another thing I'm curious about. How do you keep ISO? And it's really the standard of work and the standard of the processes and the business management system. How do you keep that front and center with people, or do people just come in and they get it and then they work to the system? You don't find many issues with people going off piste, or do they stick to it?
I think so. Again, one of the challenges was when we set the business up is in order to attract the customers that we wanted, we had to get our ISO 9001 approval pretty quickly. We were able to do that, within a 3-month window, and the key to that was putting in an ISO manual that was simple enough yet effective enough to manage the quality process without it being too convoluted, without it being too complicated, and putting in things in there that sort of send you off running around in circles. And I think, and again, when we talk about the growth of the business, the ability for us to maintain a high level of quality in relation to how we operate under ISO 9001. It's down to the simplifying the processes and procedures to enough where everybody can understand them and follow them effectively. You can write the most complicated procedures in the world and have the most complicated systems in the world, and it's those that then might make people sort of deviate away from what the expectations are or the requirements are. But having a system in place that effectively deals with quality and in a simplistic fashion and an easy to use way, then it makes it second nature. It's as easy as then making a cup of coffee. You don't suddenly come to make a cup of coffee and forget all the processes that go into that. And it's the same with quality. If your processes are easy enough to follow and the steps and the systems are in place and they're easy to follow, easy to maintain and monitor, then it's second nature to just to be in line with them. It almost feels strange to deviate away from them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap it up now, Nathan. As much as I'd like to talk on, particularly we haven't really covered very much about the spin-out business, Stellar Precision Engineering. So perhaps that's a topic for another podcast. In the meantime, it'd be good if you could, leave our listeners with a sense of, what's next for Denatec, and also if you'd one sort of piece of advice for listeners about, business engineering, what would that be?
So where's Denatec going next? We are continuing to grow. We are continuing to pick up new customers, and carry on with our specialist bespoke projects. However, we've identified, where we can generate extra revenue streams through selling components and products, pumps, valves, equipment like that. So we hope to, create an offshoot of the business that does that, sells equipment that enhances our business. I think with Denatec, it will always rely on coming up with innovative design solutions. But there is also an element of the business where sort of good old sales of items, buy in, sell out, to help bolster up the specialist bespoke projects. That's where I see it going. I see us moving into a larger premises, of which we are looking at doing that very, very shortly, to help with the growth and to give us more capability and help increase our opportunities even more. The number of inquiries coming in from overseas is going through the roof. So I do see us, spreading out a lot more. We're already looking at setting up an office in the US to deal with increasing demand over there. And I think, with this growth and, what I will say to some people is that, when you're going out and you're setting up business, or even if you're in a business, you've just got to, I relate coming to work the same as I do going home. If things are complicated and aren't simple to do at home, then when you come into the workplace, it's no different. You've got to be able to, adopt the same principles that you do in your home life and your work life. And if you find yourself overcomplicating things and making things too difficult, then it can be quite challenging and off-putting, really. I think sometimes people might be put off by too much growth or diversifying or taking risk. But I think if you break things down into simple blocks and apply the same logic that you apply in your day-to-day life at home, then actually the process of running and growing a business isn't too daunting, and yeah, I'd recommend that everybody does it.
Here's to that. Yeah, I mean, keeping it simple is definitely the only way forward. I think you can have grand plans, but taking them one step at a time and having simple, clear processes is the key. We follow a similar philosophy, so Nathan, I really appreciate your time this morning. We could probably talk for another couple of hours about a lot of the many interesting lessons and challenges that you've overcome in the last few years and in your career. But you never know, there's always Series 3. So thanks very much again, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you very much, Rich.
Cheers.
See you later. Bye.
That was a brilliant insight into what it takes to grow a manufacturing business from an idea to reality, and thanks again to Nathan for sharing the Denatec story. Here at FlowLens, we're proud to have played a small part in enabling that success. Look out for future manufacturing growth stories in future episodes. In the next episode, I'll be speaking with Will Kinghorn, Technology Adoption Specialist from Made Smarter UK. Based in the northwest of England, Made Smarter provides advice, funding and training for companies starting their digital transformation journey. Will takes us through the support available, the ways Made Smarter can help companies understand the low-hanging fruit, and examples of successful projects. Tune in next time to find out more.